Hello. How is everyone? Just thought I would start off with some tunes that I've been working on in the background. Um, yeah, so we're just doing a quick stream today, just about an hour and a half. 'Cause I've got a friend's birthday party to go to, and I didn't want to miss another stream. So I'm gonna do one this week, and I'll do a longer one again next week. 'Cause the next 2 weeks after that, I'm gonna be away and won't be streaming. So I thought I'd do just a wee one. And also enough things have happened that have vaguely annoyed me that I need to talk about. So here we are. We'll probably go for about an hour and a half until about 7:30, and then yeah, just a wee short one. So no wine today, just some hobgoblin beer. Um. So I've not seen Sophie's new video yet. I have to take a look at it. But before we get started, I'll put some wee backing track on, get some wee music on the go before we get chatting properly, just while we wait for folk to filter in as well. Wait a second. Can you guys hear the guitar there? It's not picking it up on the audio capture. I was doing this earlier, but I restarted my computer and it seemed to be fixed, so I don't know what's going on there. Oh no, it is cool. Right, we'll get something going. we go. Some background music. Yeah. So, how is everyone in chat? I don't expect this to be a particularly well attended stream because it's at a different time and it's a bit too early for the Americans. So just a wee intimate stream, you know. Yeah. So basically, the plan is just to do something quick today. I think it's always Bandcamp Friday, isn't it? Do they always do that? Like, it's something I can't remember what it is. Like they give people a bigger share of income on sales on Fridays. I think so. I think it normally is. I'll never become a billionaire because I just get more Patreon subscriptions and musical instruments to soak up any additional income. That's someone's got a grind set. The only reason I'm not a millionaire yet is because I have too much avocado. That's the reason why I can't afford a house, is because I have avocado on toast. Yeah, so the stuff that's been on my head really the past few days is the collection of terrible understandings of class and of natures of like identity politics being farted out by various Jacobin writers, from Ben Burgess to the one that I saw on my TikTok earlier today that I made a short about. That's mainly the sort of thing that's been on my head the past day, that I was like, I should probably do a stream just to sort of get this stuff out my head before before posting about it makes me upset. Yeah, chasing the wrong green, exactly. It's just pure avocado. Like, you open one of these cupboards, it's pure avocado that falls out. There's nothing else in there. Most months in Bandcamp don't take a cut at all, yeah. So, if anyone hasn't seen this stuff, basically, Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks has been on a transphobic journey over the past few days, about few months, sorry, perhaps longer, but that's as much as I've been aware of it. I don't really follow the Young Turks beyond that. Saying a whole bunch of stuff that's clearly transphobic, and everyone's favourite transphobia defender, someone who plays a role which is always oh, this isn't really transphobia, this is just people saying some criticizing puritanical notions on the left. Everyone's favourite transphobia defender, Ben Burgess, was just has been all over Twitter talking about how he posted a video of Anna Kasparian saying stuff that sounded like it was a massive right word, like what I would attribute to someone doing right-wing politics, where she was like, all this identitarian stuff. Identitarian, a word I only ever hear in the context of people doing right-wing shit. Saying all this identitarian purity testing, scolding of the left. We need to get over it so we can talk more about like class issues and shit like that. Stuff that sounds like what I would class very clearly as a right-wing shift. And Ben Burgess quote tweeted it being like, is this the sort of thing you'd hear from someone doing a right-wing shift? And you're like, yes, Ben. Yes, that's exactly right. And then of course he got annoyed about that, and did another quote tweet where he quoted that one being like, I'm socially, I believe in policy prescriptions and socially progressive policies. I just think we need to stop with all the purity politics and stuff. So like clear like, oh yeah, and the crucial part being, and focus on the unifying universal material interests. And that's like such a dog whistle of like, forget, like that's secondary concerns. Forget about all the stuff that's like trans stuff, all the stuff that makes me personally uncomfortable, trans stuff, race stuff, feminism. Get it all out of there. That makes me personally uncomfortable. That's not like the real left-wing politics. That's secondary to the material stuff. And you're like, and then posted a excerpt from his Jacobin article about how we need unifying material interests of a unified working class, and all these people have such a specific definition of class, which is un-Marxist and wrong. I'll get to it in a second. Let's catch up on chat. Would have been upset by things but I saw the "Women Are My Favourite Guy" video and I've had it on repeat till now. It's been constantly on my mind. It's been constantly playing. I cannot get it out of my head. Every time I see that video, I play it again. It's fucking brilliant. Anarchists were champion gaining women's rights over a century ago. Emma Goldman wrote a letter to Magnus Hirschfeld in the 1920s for support for queer and specifically trans rights. Yeah, and then I saw this other clip from someone from this Canadian, basically saying the same things, that the left is too puritanical, and the left has moved away from class politics to identity politics. Whatever that means, whoever the left is in this context, it's never quite specified who the left exactly is in this context. Is it? Who are you talking about? And they're like, oh, left-wing political parties. Which left-wing political parties? In Canada, there aren't really any. Fucking America, there's none. There's none really in the UK. So who is the left here? Who are you talking about? If you are talking about parties like the Democrats or, the Liberals and left parties in Canada or the UK, they constantly invoke class specifically as a means to degrade the importance of these things, of like these separate identity issues, as a strategy. So who are you talking about here? No one's ever sure who we're talking about. Is it just random people that you've seen online? In which case, who cares? Or are you just talking about the fact that Black Lives Matter exists? Which seems to be probably the case. But anyway, they all have this like really narrow notion of class that's all founded in the specific like wage relationship, basically. And people who are they either have like a very expansive notion of this wage relationship. So anyone who's in a wage relationship is necessarily working class, which obviously breaks down under some scrutiny, because do I have the same class interests as someone who works for a wage on £100,000 a year? Probably not. Like those seem like different social relationships, don't they? So they either have this extremely expansive one or extremely narrow one, where it's only people in this very specific category of wage earners, who are always conceptualized as white, usually conceptualized as men, always conceptualized as able-bodied. Nobody thinks of them as like their sexuality, their if they're trans or not. Nah, fuck that, it doesn't matter. They're just these white men who work in factories somewhere. That's the working class, and we need to get back to that. That's basically what their view of class is. And it's obviously, is it a division of working class versus lumpen proletariat? I don't think so. I don't think they have a particularly sophisticated understanding. And I don't think even in Marxism and Marx's work, I don't think the lumpen proletariat is a particularly useful concept or one that is properly theorized within Marx. If they're talking about lumpen proletariat, they're usually being really reductive about people on benefits or disabled people normally. Sometimes they're being reductive about things, about people like sex workers and shit like that as well. Tim Philippine, lumpen proletariat in Marxist, orthodox Marxist work is a heterogeneous grouping of those who are not bourgeois, but those who are not in a wage relationship, who are often unemployed, homeless people. Oftentimes, in orthodox Marxism, it often related to sex workers. It's like, yeah, it's an absurd kind of categorization. Gig workers wouldn't be considered in a lumpen proletariat position. They'd just be considered proletariat, I guess. But like in its original sort of formation, the notion of proletariat meant specifically those engaged in factory work. And of course, most of the world's population who are engaged in factory work are in the global south at this point, and the reason for that is because of this racialized division of labor between global north and global south workers. So if these people had a proper like orthodox Marxist understanding than a proper orthodox understanding than these people do, then they would have to accept that the race makeup of the global proletariat is essential to that construction. But basically what they want to argue is that these are white men who work in factories, and the left, whoever they are, needs to be better at appealing to them on some sort of level, to do class politics specifically for them. And in doing so, they say, oh, these are other identity issues, race and gender, they're important, but they're secondary. We need to get back to these class sort of politics of the fucking working class, whoever we define them as, and forget this other stuff, this other gender stuff. That's all identity politics. That's nonsense. It's identity politics. Like it's you know, we can talk about it once we've actually got to a proper class politics. That's what they mean. And they forget that these like notions of identity, subjecthood, are created and co-constructed with any notion of class. Your gender position, your racial position is constitutive of a class position. It's constitutive of a relation to the means of production, a relation to capital, and is therefore a class issue. But they want to ignore it, and it drives me up the wall. $100K. I mean, I don't think someone on £100,000 a year has much of the same class interests as someone who's on benefits in this country. I don't think they have many of the same class interests as someone who's on, I don't know, £15,000 a year. Yeah. But yeah, that's been what's been getting my goat recently. I probably didn't express that particularly well because I'm agitated. Uh, but the basic conclusion is that the Jacobin, almost every time you see someone talking about this stuff, they're a Jacobin writer. And just, maybe the Jacobin needs to get its shit together and stop hiring people who have no notion of what class actually is, what it refers to, and hate, minorities and women. That'd be nice. And the thing is, this isn't new concepts. This isn't new conceptual ground within a tradition that we can broadly call Marxism. The notion of class not being a specific cleavage referring to a certain group as the working class, that as a proletarian group, has been around for a long time. It's maybe central to a lot of Marxist thought. E.B. Thompson talks about it in The Making of the English Working Class, that class is not like a group, but the way that the motion of the machine, the heat that's generated, basically arguing that it's about the social relations at work rather than specific, a specific group who everyone else can, work around, who everyone else is less important than in left-wing politics. And a lot of that work has been influenced and is influential in Marxist feminism and black Marxism, and I mean, I don't think being on $100,000 makes you particularly precarious. Yeah, so that's been the thing that that's got me for the past few days. The other thing that's got me for the past few days is, of course, also the US is a bad country to think about class position is. I mean, so is the UK. The UK's notion of class is so bound up with performance of class as a sort of identity marker, and in a very specific sense, and the notion of my father's uncle was a toolmaker, so I am working class because I have that relation. It's in my bones and blood, which is a really weird thing, because it's I think it's relatively recent, as in my parents' generation did not think like that, or at least my parents didn't think like that. They were very much we are very middle class. They were they were working class, and then they became middle class, and they were yeah, we're middle class. But there's a generation, I think the generation below them, who were born middle class, but whose parents were working class, and my generation as well, who take on their think that class is some sort of transitive property that's bestowed upon you on birth. So you get these people who are Keir Starmer, one of them. So people who are farmer top level lawyers being yes, I'm a working class lad. It's you're not, though, are you? You're the leader of the opposition party in the UK government, in the UK political system. You're not working class. That's US healthcare being tied to work is certainly a spanner in the works. Every time I hear about US healthcare, it's like that always an absurd. It just is so absurd. And man, I'm very, very sure that the UK is going that way pretty quickly. I don't think that we'll have a meaningful health service in the next 10 years. And that's being generous. Increasingly, people are getting private healthcare coverage through their work, and the NHS is getting stripped back to only the most basic services for those who cannot afford to or don't get healthcare coverage through their work. Yeah, I mean middle class being like, I think the middle class is a fraught term, like if you're talking sociologically and not specifically Marxistly. It is obviously very fraught, but there's a clear distinction between myself, who had parents who earned, significantly more than the median wage, and people whose parents earned the median wage. Median wage in the UK when I was young was about 24,000. I think it's like 28 now. My parents were on like 50,000 a year, which is significantly more. And there's a definite material difference between my class position in that circumstance and the class positions of my friends who had very different parental situations. Hereditary is how class traditionally worked in the UK. I mean, that's true basically anywhere, isn't it? It's only for a very brief time has class not worked in that way, and arguably it works. Arguably it's working less in that way now. That class positions of children, like my class position, is likely to fall relative to my parents. I'm almost certainly not going to ever earn as much money as they did, and that's like the social mobility of people is declining reversing in the UK. Don't know what it's like in the US. Anyway, class. Should Marxists have reversing as well. Should Marxists have a better analysis of class, more than just saying there's a working class and then there's identity politics? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. In the States, big difference between people making the same wage who rent and own. Yeah, I mean, same in the UK, except so few of the younger generation can own. Rents are so bad here. I'm sure I've told this story before, but when I moved down from Glasgow to London, 2019, the place I rented in Glasgow was basically a 2-bedroom place, really, really big. 2-bedroom place in like the centre of Glasgow, as I rented it with myself and a couple of friends who at the time were dating. So rent split 3 ways. And it was £900 overall per month, £300 each. For this beautiful, really big top floor flat, just off Great Western Road, centre of Glasgow. And I moved down to London and I paid cheap, very cheap for London, £340 for this tiny little 4 foot by 8 foot cell, way out in Hendon. And then I looked up a few months back, maybe about a year ago, I looked up the current renting price for that same place in Glasgow, and in the 3 years between when we rented it and what it was going for now, it increased 100%. It was now going for 1,800 a month. So we would have been paying £600 each, which I wouldn't have been able to afford at the time. I was working in a minimum wage job in admin. I wouldn't be able to afford it now. But it's such an illustration of just how bad renting is in the UK right now. With like people just unable to survive, having to move further and further out, then paying more and more money on their travel so that they can get into work, so they can get the money to pay 60% of it to the landlord. It's fucking great. A few weeks ago, I was at a demonstration, an action in the UK, because with the Renters Union that I do some stuff with, because an event called the Landlords Investment Show, something like that, was happening in London, which was an opportunity for all these landlords to talk about their portfolios, how to financialize and how to increase the US has this problem about expanded due to needing to pay for cars. Yeah, that's also a bad thing. And the US has has lots of really bad problems with financialized car ownership as well, hasn't it? The increasing debtification of owning cars and paying off cars and little bits of money. That's really bad. Anyway, we're at this landlord investment show, protesting it. We almost got chucked off because in London a lot of the land is privatised, especially around the banks of the Thames, and that means that you're not allowed to protest on it. So we got segmented behind a row of literal row of gold coins that are inserted into the pavement, and we were told, we were sort of pushed and handled by police and by security into this small segment where we were allowed to protest, because that's where the land was no longer privatised, this tiny little strip along the Thames. And we were there, it was such a good visual metaphor, we were there in the pouring rain behind this line of gold coins, while watching the landlords inside talking about their assets and how they can make so much more money, and how they need to squeeze renters for even more money, while we were standing outside in the pissing rain, and they would come out and they'd start shouting at us, and they'd start being like, if you don't like your place, just move. If you hate it so much, just move. We're providing a service. We're providing everything that they need. It's so hard to be a landlord. If you want things to change, go talk to the government. Meanwhile, knowing that the head of the landlord investment show has the phone number of the housing minister on his mobile, so he could talk to the government. Well, thank you, Callum Armstrong. Cheers. And then the police showed up wearing thin blue line badges. That is the badge of Americans will know the thin blue line stuff from the US flag stuff, but London Metropolitan police have been using it a lot. I've noticed it a lot at actions. They're technically not allowed to. They did release statements saying you shouldn't be wearing this stuff because it's a fascist badge, but they do it anyway still. And this police officer kept shouting at us. They have the UK flag on it, tinfoil. They have like a black and red Union Jack with a thin blue line through it, which is it gives you the heebie-jeebies in a very specific way, slightly different from the US one. This fucking cop with a Thin Blue Line badge on it, kept shouting at us to let the landlords speak, because the landlords kept coming up and being like, we give you a service, we give you a service. We just kept booing them, obviously, because fuck you. And this fucking police officer just kept going, how can you be booing? You need to hear what they've got to say. You can't just boo people. It's got to be a conversation. Listen to what he's got to say. It's like, man, fuck you. I don't get the whole point of why we're there is so that it's because they have things to say. They get the things to say all the time. No one has to. That's not how a protest works. And like one of the courses or talks in this landlords conference was titled "How to Develop a 25 Property Portfolio Using None of Your Own Money." And you know, how are we supposed to react to that except calling them scum? They might as well just be telling us that they're scum. Like, we were playing a game that was like, what percentage of your income goes to your rent? And not one person in the protest group's income, not one person spent less than 40% of their income on rent. Most people, it was 50, 60%. And these landlords are just like, if you don't like it, move. Yeah, it's bad. Let's get another track going. Let's get the vibes to be more upbeat before we talk about anything else. It's my birthday? It's not my birthday. It's not my birthday. I was just checking there that the stream didn't say it was. No, it's not. Well, it does sound like you're going to kill me saying unbirthday. It does sound like that. And I am not going to Google that. I feel like there's some stuff that I maybe don't want to see. If someone wishes you a very merry unbirthday, it's not what you're yeah, I mean it feels like I'm about to get stabbed. It doesn't sound ideal. Happy birthday is good. I like that. That feels like something was said. just dropping in to say it's very funny that you release a video on Degrowth the week that the Penguin franchise, noted for being a series of games about the resource-stricken, drops new game. Well, I mean, technically re-uploaded to try and unsuccessfully, but slightly fix the audio of it. I've not heard of those games, no. It was serendipitous that I decided to tinker with the audio for that. The same week as everyone started talking about bananas. How you commented on your last reel? Welcome. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, that was another thing that Ben Burgess had annoyed. Sorry, this is just an hour and a half of John complaining about Ben Burgess. God, the position that he has on. I remember him so often in so many streams and stuff a few years back, and just thinking, this guy's talking shite. So many people were big fans of him. Is it Soft G? Is it Burgess? I don't know. Yeah, he released a really bad article on the banana stuff as well. Talking about, you know, the notion of well, thank you, Moga. You know, everyone's always telling me that deprogram people are nice. I've never actually listened to the podcast. Complaining about social democrats is always something I'm here for. Exactly. And I know that he calls himself a socialist, but he isn't. You okay, Shirin? Just a few M's. Okay, Marshall, don't. Nobody should ever feel bad about ending Patreon subscriptions. That's not something you don't have to ever apologize for. That. It's a privilege that I have even one subscriber, never mind many, and you've been very supportive. So don't ever apologize for having to cancel a subscription. Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Want to join my new city? I'm not sure what that means. What was I saying? Something about bananas. Anyway, yeah. But Ben wrote a really bad article on the banana stuff that was all about like how we need abundance and how people talking about how people talking about, you know, how we're not going to economically compel people to make an absurd amount of deeply environmentally damaging monoculture crops is actually anti left wing. That was bad. Serendipitous as well. That I was tinkering with that video's audio that week. Are we making a commune? We can make a commune. Pet Lover, that they sound like using neoliberalism videos to get through a shift at a supermarket sounds ironic, and I'm glad that you're getting something from it. I will be back in 2 seconds. I'm just going to grab another beer quickly. We'll stick around for about another half hour, and then I've got to rush off. Going 10-pin bowling. It's a friend of mine's birthday, and he's decided to go 10-pin bowling. I've not been 10-pin bowling since I was like 11 years old. It's not really something of, you know, maybe it'll be fun. He said desperately, it will be fun. Back in a minute. Here we are, back again. I was at the Florence Pride Parade and a similar thing happened. The Pride invited the gay cops who were in the Pride and with their suits, and had some people who were not in favour of that, and there were some fights. Yeah, I mean, fucking cops should not be welcome at Pride. Oh, I got into some annoying fights about Pride this year. I didn't really go because of last year's situation. But Just Stop Oil were planning to do some disrupting by throwing paint over the faction from the Labour Party. And some absolute nerds were very upset about the notion that Just Stop Oil would disrupt Pride, because it's like a space for just celebrating queerness. But I was like, first of all, the Labour Party should not be welcome at Pride. The Labour Party are a horrendous transphobic institution out to absolutely destroy the trans population of Britain, who are actively protecting and apologising to absolute thought leaders, movement leaders of the transphobic movement. Like the Shadow Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, last week apologised to Rosie Duffield, who is one of the ringleaders in transphobic UK politics, who has basically been engaged in Holocaust denial, softcore Holocaust denial, and he apologised to her because she felt unwelcome because of her views on gender. So, you know, fuck the Labour Party and everyone. They should not be welcome there. It doesn't matter which token queer that they're wheeling out for the parade. They absolutely should not be welcome. And secondly, that they're fully on board with like expanding oil production and like they're rolling back on all of their green commitments, which is the specific thing that Just Stop Oil exists to oppose. So it's a completely and entirely fair thing to do, and I fully support it. Lots of people were like, well, if you want to throw paint over people in Pride, then you're standing with transphobes. And I was like, that is fucking fuck you, first of all, for even suggesting that taking a stance against the Labour Party is remotely similar to transphobes who are arguing that Labour Party isn't transphobic enough. That's just fuck you. But yeah. I was very mad about several conversations I had with people who were otherwise fairly sound, but just in this context of Pride, were like, oh, Pride is just a sacred space for queer people to feel safe. And you're like, that's never been that. Especially not London. And London Pride specifically is notoriously racist and notoriously like they released statements about how anti-black their organising committee is. They're a corporation, London Pride, who are notoriously fucked up. And the notion that we can't protest that is fucking fake politics. I can't even remember how I got on to talking about this. The things happening at Florence Pride. Yeah, it fucking sucks. It sucks. I know the person who started the restaurant discourse, and it's very funny. It's very funny that he gets. He's a sound guy, or at least I know him via Twitter. Sound guy. I mean, that's the restaurant thing is another thing that I'm just like, yeah. I mean, it's obviously correct. The mode of communal eating that is the restaurant. In what sense could it possibly exist in a post-capitalist world. Like, and if no one is economically compelled to organise the service of food like that, then why would they? Doesn't mean that communal eating will stop. It just means that the restaurant as an institution would end. Yeah, absolutely cover them in paint. I saw the Greenpeace stuff is good as well. Lots of good. Oh man. Oh, that was something else I saw that annoyed me. John complains round 42. My question is, why were Just Stop Oil talking about it beforehand? They should have just done it. They were talking about it because they'd been in negotiations with, I believe, with London Pride and the Labour Party, and the discussions had broke down. So they were talking about it as a pressuring tactic. Whether or not you agree with that, I think it's a fair reason. Fair enough reason to talk about it previously, to be like, yeah, you didn't talk to us, negotiations broke down, so we're gonna fucking do this. I think that's probably fair. Some people said to me, Pride should not be about politics. Yeah, I get that a lot. Pride isn't about politics, it's about celebration. It's like, Pride's about fucking politics, man. Especially right now, Pride's about fucking politics. And if it's not, we're gonna fucking drag politics back into Pride, kicking and screaming. It's about politics, and we're gonna make it about politics. I'm a fully disabled individual who doesn't work for money. I regularly host 12 to 20 person meals. I suppose that might offer some insight into the why question regarding restaurants. Yeah, I mean, like, there's a difference between hosting, wanting to do communal eating, hosting big meals for people, and then the notion of a restaurant, which is an enterprise organised along lines of exploitative labour, which obviously just can't exist. If people aren't economically compelled to do that labour, they're not going to be economically compelled to do it. Like, nobody in the anti-restaurant sort of positions argues that all forms of communal eating and ways of organising, like, even if you wanted to do it regularly, that would be banned or it would stop. It's just that the restaurant as an enterprise would obviously just have to end. What? If you believe that Pride isn't about politics, you have no place at Pride. An event whose politics are explicitly meant to oppose people like that. Yeah, until the police start turning up. Oh man, every time the police, I see a video of like the police dancing at Pride, a part of my soul dies. That's what I was gonna say. Important to note, not economically compelled doesn't equal would not do it anyway. Yeah, exactly. Not economically compelled. If you want to do something, you can do it. But that is a very different thing than a restaurant. And indeed the industry of restaurantism. Yeah, there was a I saw a video today of these two guys who infiltrated, in other words, put a mole inside of Just Stop Oil to prove how bad they were. And these guys, fucking, their voices, man, their voices were like, yes, yeah, we put a mole inside Just Stop Oil, and we support their actions, but we just thought that they've really lost their way and they really haven't got people into to really get the public on board with their goals. So we just wanted to do a little prank and make them feel kind of bad. And I was like, oh, you fucking get the fuck out of here with that voice, man. You're not allowed to talk about protests with that voice, man. Get out of here. And they were saying things like, yes, Just Stop Oil. They were talking about how they knew they were going to be arrested, and they said, which one of you is happy to be arrested today? And so they actually knew that they were breaking the law. And you're like, yes, they know they're breaking the law. This is what happens at protests. Like, the police warn you about shit, and if you're doing a protest, you do it. And if people are willing to put their bodies in front of others as protection to be arrested because they know they will be safer and they can handle it, then that's how that works. That's not a negative. That's how it works. That's how protests work. And I was so mad about it. I was very close to just do it. The only reason I didn't put out a fucking TikTok about that was because they'd blocked all stitches on it, and I was like, yeah, you fucking cowards. You absolute cowards. Oh yeah, we just tried so hard to make our lives so much better than everyone else's. Fuck off. Pricks. That annoyed me a lot. Chicken Run 2 fully automated luxury egg strata socialism. That would revive my soul. I am absolutely looking forward to Chicken Run 2. Yeah. Fucking the people Just Stop Oil just keep doing correct things and then getting the most boring people in the world to get mad at them. The Just Stop Oil protested the Scottish government building and had people being like, oh, this is not a legitimate target for protest. You're like, it's a fucking government building. There are a few more relevant areas of protest than the government. Oh, they should really be protesting Westminster. As if the Scottish government has no power. I think there are American posh accents. I've definitely heard some American posh accents. There's the finance bro kind of accent. The way everyone talks in American Psycho. That's some that's some posh fucking accent. It's a different kind of posh, though. I will accept that. There's a certain kind of American posh that almost sounds English in how posh it is. That's weird. I've come across that a few times and be like, oh, that's a strange voice you've got there. You can almost see the generations of waspiness waft out of your mouth. It's interesting. It's not quite Mid-Atlantic. It's something else, because the Mid-Atlantic's being like not a real accent, being one that was sort of created for media, but there's certain kind of waspy folk that kind of sound almost English. I've come across them once or twice. Just Stop Oil are not concerned with building a movement. Protest stunts only go so far. Yeah, I mean, they are only doing protest stuff. I think the building of a movement for anti-climate change stuff is a much bigger project. But there's a unity in these two things. It's not like doing protest stunts is separate from movement building. I imagine through the act of doing these protest stunts has been building the movement for them, or else they'd died out a while ago. there should be a term for the influencer accent. It is an interesting phenomenon. The influencer accent. There's a couple of like, sometimes I get sent accounts. Any more thoughts on the rise of natural asset companies commodifying nature, including, as they put it, the foundations of life itself as a twisted corporate state response to climate change? I mean, it sounds... the only thing I can say to that is it sounds extremely just neoliberal, I'm afraid. Not to be on brand, but the commodification of these traditionally communally held, often socially reproductive assets, which land and natural assets are, is some standard neoliberal shit, and it's grim, and it probably will continue. And well, I wonder, it will probably continue. Yeah, I get sent like now and then TikToks of influencers using the influencer accent. I don't even know if I can imitate it. It's like things about London that just make sense. Things like that. There's a YouTuber accent which is slightly different, I think. The way that a particular type of content mill YouTuber talks. I've been accused of going more Scottish when I'm doing this by my family. I don't think it's true. I think I try to do I try to be more clear in my videos, and I think that comes across. I think that to some folk it just sounds like I'm putting on a more Scottish accent, but I'm trying to just not slur more, because I know that I slur slightly, and then people are like, I don't understand what you're saying when you're slurring. But I've been accused of trying to increase my Scottish credibility, which I think is very funny. You know what I watched recently? We're gonna go for about 5 more minutes before I have to get my stuff together in head. But before we go, and thanks for coming around for this short wee stream. Has everyone seen the new Good Omens yet? I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Barbie, I'll talk about Barbie next week. I saw both Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'll talk about them both next week when I've got some more time to elucidate my thoughts. Yeah, the new. There's a strike, yeah. There's a writer's strike. The writers aren't demanding people stop watching films. That's not one of the demands of the writer's strike. So you can keep watching films. I never watched I watched like 2 episodes of Mr. Robot. I never really got into it. The Hollywood films are I don't believe so. It's not something that the striking workers are. See you later, Dr. Anarchy 69. I don't believe that's it's a demand or something that the striking workers are asking for, so I don't think it's something that needs to be. If they were saying don't watch the films, then that would be something, but I don't believe they are. Good Omens though was really good. Promotion? Well, I mean, we could decide another time whether my critique of the Barbie film will be considered promotion, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's going to be. See you later, Adam. Yeah, we'll call that a day for now. We didn't get a chance to talk about Good Omens, but we can add that into the list of things to talk about next week when we do a bigger stream. Thanks for coming along, folks. I will leave you with the tune that I was working on Ableton, and I'll catch you next week. See yous around.